Iran launched the 10th wave of Operation True Promise 3 against Israel, triggering air raid sirens in Tel Aviv and occupied Jerusalem. An Argentinian federal judge orders house arrest for former President Cristina Kirchner, keeping her from the obligation to appear before the Comodoro courts Wednesday to comply with her 6-year prison sentence. And the Colombian Senate plenary session resumes this Tuesday with a fourth and final debate on labor reform, with 12 articles still pending discussions. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Iran launched the 10th wave of Operation True Promise 3 against Israel. Missile launched from Iran towards the occupied territory triggered air raid sirens in Tel Aviv and occupied Jerusalem. U.S. systems participate in the response to intercept the projectiles. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard announced that it had attacked the Zionist entity's military intelligence center, known as Amman, and other key infrastructure of the Zionist entity. Earlier on Tuesday, Iran fired more than 350 ballistic missiles at Israeli-occupied territory, striking military facilities in Tel Aviv, including Mossad headquarters. The Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps maintained its counter-offensive against Israel. The spokesperson for the Israeli Ministry of Defense assured that they detected most of the attacks by the latest models of missiles launched and warned that the attack will continue. According to Israeli media, the attacks hit the center of Tel Aviv and the Herilija area where the Gilead camp is located, which houses high-level military intelligence units and the Israeli Armed Forces Center. Israel forced fires in the city of Haifa after Iranian missiles hit the region. The impact of the missiles from Tehran's Operation True Promise 3 reportedly triggered explosions and fires in the port city overnight, which have continued during the day, affecting buildings and vehicles. In this context, Israeli security personnel rescue teams keep inspecting and cleaning the buildings and areas impacted. Iran stated that it is exercising its right to self-defense against the war crimes perpetrated by Israel. At the 78th United Nations plenary meeting, Iranian Representative Amir Saeed Iravani explained that the Zionist regime mainly attacks residential areas, contrary to the Israeli narrative of carrying out surgical strikes without collateral damage. Iravani emphasized that Israeli bombings have resulted in 1,481 Iranians killed and wounded, including children. Given this situation, he emphasized that the Iranian armed forces have escalated their bombings against the strategic targets in occupied territories, concentrating their attacks mainly on Tel Aviv and Haifa, two of Israel's most important military centers. On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned G7 summit being held in Canada. Sources claim that the group's inability to take a stand on the Iranian issue angered the Republican leader, who did not wait for the final declaration. In his hasty return to Washington, Trump ordered 10 million Iranians to abandon Tehran. The U.S. president said to be in talks with the Persian nation to return to the dialogue table, reporting that he would charge businessman Steve Witkoff and Vice President J.D. Vance to reach a good agreement. However, on Tuesday he assured on his social media that he was not seeking dialogue with anyone and recommended once again that Iran prepare for the worst. While Iran continues international dialogue to explain the tensions and seeks the intervention of the United Nations in pursuit of a diplomatic solution, to the conflict, the President of the United States continues to send confusing signals regarding the future of nuclear talks. Below are some of his statements made in less than 24 hours. On his social media, he declared that Iran is not winning this war with Israel, urging Tehran to seek dialogue before the situation escalates. However, these statements seem to ignore the complexity of the conflict and the reality on the ground, where tensions between the two countries have reached alarming levels. Washington's capacity to intervene in any conflict is becoming increasingly weak and unlikely. The U.S. President also called for the immediate evacuation of Tehran. He assumes he has the right to decide whether or not Iran can use nuclear energy for the benefit of its people. However, no one seems to take him seriously. Trump wants the highest-ranking Iranian figures to be present at the agreements, but few in Tehran trust him. The president said that J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, and Steve Witkoff, Special Envoy for the Middle East, would contact the Persian teams. However, on Tuesday, he assured on his social media that he was not seeking dialogue with anyone and recommended once again that Iran prepare for the worst. A joint statement released Monday by the foreign ministers of 21 Arab and Islamic countries condemned Israel's ongoing military aggression against Iran, which has been exacerbating tensions in the Middle East. The statement said Israel's strikes on Iran violate the principles of the Charter of the United Nations. It also emphasized the necessity of respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, and also adhering to the principles of good neighborliness and the peaceful settlement of disputes. The joint statement expressed great concern regarding this dangerous escalation, which threatens to have serious consequences on the peace and stability of the entire region. The Chinese government accused President Donald Trump of pouring oil on the mounting conflict between Iran and Israel after the U.S. leader warned Tehran residents to immediately evacuate.
中东地区局势再度骤然升温，不符合
The situation in the Middle East has escalated again abruptly, and this does not serve the interest of any party. Fanning the flames, pouring oil, making threats, and mounting pressure will not help to promote the de-escalation of the situation, but will only intensify and widen the conflict. The Chinese side calls on all relevant parties, especially countries with special influence on Israel, to shoulder their responsibilities, take immediate measures to de-escalate tensions, and prevent the conflict from expanding and spreading.
为紧张局势降温，避免冲突扩大蔓延。
And now we have a short break coming up. First, remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday morning, a massacre was perpetrated by the Israeli army against 8 seekers in Khan Yunis, with multiple Palestinians killed and injured. Gaza's Ministry of Health reports that at least 60 Palestinians were killed and hundreds more injured, including thousands critically after Israeli occupation forces targeted civilians waiting for desperately needed aid at Al Talia roundabout in Khan Yunis this morning. Medical sources confirmed the rising death toll and described severe overcrowding in emergency rooms, intensive care units and operating rooms. Medical teams are reportedly struggling to treat the influx of casualties due to dangerously limited supplies of life-saving medicines and equipment. On Monday, citizens gathered in the district of Üsküdar in Turkey to express their strong rejection of the Israeli government's genocidal policies against the Gaza Strip. The event was organized by 6 political parties ranging from the left to the right, in which speakers urged the Turkish government to take a stronger stance against the genocide of the Palestinians and Israeli aggression towards Iran. Attendees proposed the creation of a peace force to break the siege in Gaza, while others demanded that President Recep Tayyip Erdogan not only criticize Netanyahu but also confront U.S. President Donald Trump.
We must stop this war. We have to speak to them in a language they understand, because in the long run they will attack us too. Israel will not leave us alone, nor will its allies, the United States and the United Kingdom, which are like a single nation.
We are here to support Gaza. We are supporting our Quds in Gaza. We will always be here. We will live without freedom until they are free. And I am sure that we will see their liberation.
The government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela called for the cessation of the Israeli occupation during the United Nations General Assembly session. On his keynote address, the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil denounced the complicity of the Trump administration with the actions of Israel. The senior diplomat grounded such claim in the fact that at least United Nations Security Council meeting on June 4th, 2025, Washington cast a negative vote on a non-member country's proposal to stop immediately the ongoing genocide in the Palestinian territory. The minister further ensured that the U.S. veto undermined peace, security and stability in the Middle East region, giving the Israeli regime the opportunity to maintain its campaign of violence in the occupied territories of the Palestinian people.
President, the situation on the ground is beyond critical. The conditions for millions continue to deteriorate day on day. We renew our most serious concern about the catastrophic consequences, including in the humanitarian domain, resulting from the ongoing brutal Israeli military operation and the crimes committed to date by the occupying power against the Palestinian people. In the Gaza Strip, we are witnessing what can only be described as a collapse of the most basic norms of international law and international humanitarian law. Over 55,000 Palestinians, the vast majority of the civilians, including women and thousands of children, have been killed.
In other news, in Venezuela, 135 migrants arrived after being deported from the United States as part of the Back to the Homeland plan promoted by the national government. The 33rd flight of the humanitarian plan arrived at Maiquetía Airport carrying mostly children. Thanks to the government's diplomacy, the Venezuelans who have been victims of U.S. anti-immigration laws continue to arrive. They are being assisted by a deployment of security forces who provide them with comprehensive care and where their human and civil rights are guaranteed and respected. The Bolivarian government and the people continue to denounce the situation in order to bring back the more than 250 Venezuelans who are being held hostage in El Salvador. Indonesian authorities raised the eruption alert to the highest level following Laki-Laki volcano unleashed 10,000 meters of thick grey clouds on Tuesday afternoon. As precautionary measure, officials warned that the danger area could broaden 8 kilometers from its crater. Indonesian Geology Agency has reported 50 volcanic activities in just 2 hours. The ashes from Laki-Laki volcano expanded into a mushroom-shaped ash that could be noticed from the cities located 90 to 150 kilometers from its epicenter, Mount Lowotobi. In this context, authorities said no casualties had been reported so far. However, they urged residents to be vigilant about torrential rains which could trigger lava flows in rivers coming from the volcano. In Thailand, health authorities reported an increase in COVID-19 cases so far in 2025. The Public Health Ministry recorded an estimated 76,161 infections and more than 100 deaths between May 24th and June 14th. The cities of Bangkok, Chonburi and Chiang Mai have the highest number of infections, exceeding the figures for seasonal influenza. The ministry urged the population to wear face masks in crowded places, maintain hand hygiene and get booster vaccines, especially citizens with high-risk health problems. China positions itself as one of the main economic sources in Central Asia with an investment of more than $30 billion US. On the occasion of the second China Central Asia Summit held in Kazakhstan, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce stated that in recent years, investments have been on the rise and focused on green development and digitalization. Beijing emphasized that investment has been directed toward 5G activity and smart city construction sectors in the region. According to data from the Chinese General Customs Administration, trade with the 5 Central Asian countries grew by 10.4% and in 2025 broke historical records. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. An Argentinian federal judge ordered Tuesday the house arrest of former President Cristina Kirchner, keeping her from the obligation to appear before the Comodoro courts Wednesday to comply with her 6-year prison sentence. The judge's ruling establishes a series of restrictions for the former president, such as the use of an electronic ankle and that she must refrain from adopting behaviors that may disturb the tranquility of the neighborhood and or alter the peaceful coexistence of its inhabitants. The decision only allows the access to Fernandez's home without judicial permission to family members and the lawyers who represent her. The restrictions also limit the popular demonstrations that have been taking place in front of Fernandez's home. The Colombian Senate plenary session resumes this Tuesday with the fourth and final debate on labor reform, with 12 articles still pending discussion. The Senate has approved 62 articles of the bill so far, with 12 remaining, including the most sensitive ones relating to hiring, working hours, micro-businesses and social security. Meanwhile, workers are demanding that the parliamentarians stop legislating behind the people's back and pandering to the corporate class in the final debate on this reform, otherwise they will take to the streets for a popular vote. Colombian President Gustavo Petro assured that an agreement on labor reform with the Senate will be based on not backtracking on the consensus reached in the House of Representatives.
Teniendo como escenario la Plaza de Bolívar en Bogotá,
with Bolivar Square in the capital as the backdrop, the country's labor unions and social organizations held a national rally demanding improvements in labor policies for workers who are being harmed by a reform agreed upon by legislators from the opposition parties, currently being processed in the Senate.
Por lo general, la característica de este Senado, sus bancadas mayoritarias.
In general, the characteristic of this Senate and its majority benches of the traditional parties has been to legislate behind the back of the Colombian people. And today it has the opportunity to ensure that those 19 articles and what the government has proposed as red lines and more than red lines, non-negotiable aspects negotiable because they are the heritage of the Colombian trade union movement of workers, and we do not want crumbs. We do not want a labor reform that is piecemeal.
Forma laboral pegada a retazos.
El descontento de los trabajadores ante la posibilidad de que sus derechos no
Workers' discontent at the possibility that their rights will not be recognized has led them to mobilize and make their demands visible in the face of what they consider to be a counter-reform by pro-business legislators. 79% of the articles have already been approved, with the pending points for discussion representing the most critical issues such as the night work regime, exceptions for micro-enterprises, remuneration for mandatory days off, and apprenticeship contracts, among other issues that workers are calling for close attention.
los trabajadores a prestar toda la atención.
Hay tres absolutamente inadmisibles.
There are three absolutely unacceptable proposals that have been put forward by the oligarchy parties in the Senate plenary session.
El contrato por horas que acaba con la estabilidad laboral, así diga otro artículo.
Which is the hourly contract that ends job security, even though another article states that indefinite contracts will be the norm, the social protection floors that end the minimum wage level.
Acaban con el nivel mínimo del salario mínimo, cosa que no estamos de acuerdo. Y la jornada laboral,
which we do not agree with, and the weekly working hours of 4 days of work for 3 days of rest, which implies exhausting 11-hour working days and which eliminates overtime.
11 horas, y con lo cual acaban con las horas extras.
Mientras, al interior del Congreso, los parlamentarios
While inside the Congress, members of Parliament began the plenary session after 1 p.m. and addressed the agenda related to the vote and discussion of the articles that complete the labor counter-reform. Expectations were growing outside, and both workers and political sectors of the coalition were joining the alternative of a popular consultation as a way to secure labor rights in the face of the possible approval of an article that blurs the essence of the reform that was initially proposed.
la reforma que se planteaba inicialmente.
A la altura de hoy, faltando pocas horas,
As of today, with only a few hours to go, the card is more or less cut, although the people continue to pressure. Here is a very important rally of young people and workers who have come to hold a sit-in, and it is happening all over the country. The president's firmness in putting the popular consultation on the horizon, I think, explains what is happening there.
popular, creo que explica lo que está ocurriendo allá.
Los trabajadores y demás sectores que se han sumado a estas actividades exigen
Workers and other sectors that join these activities demand that parliamentarians stop legislating behind the people's backs and bowing to the business class in the final debate on this reform. Otherwise, they will take to the streets for a popular consultation.
para la consulta popular. Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
In other informations, the Panamanian government arrested about 34 people during protests against the social security reform in the province of Bocas del Toro. Security authorities stated that the arrests were made as part of Operation Omega, which aims to curb protest against the government of President José Raúl Mulino. The government specified that 24 of those arrested will be handed over to the public prosecutor's office. The remaining 10 will be brought before Justice of the Peace. During the operation, authorities used tear gas to repress protesters in order to open 19 points in the province of Bocas del Toro, which were blocked as a measure to demand the repeal of the Social Security reform. Offered Parliament in solidarity with the people of Bocas del Toro and Ariame, victims of the use of police force. For their part, they reported that due to the attacks by air, sea and land, more likely military operations, there are several injured, some seriously. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.